It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Let's get into today's California report at randywangradio.substack.com. You've heard us talk about them, but I swear it's getting more and more prevalent every single day. I don't know why so many kids got an e-bike for Christmas, but it is turning so many teenagers into little monsters. And that's why more and more Orange County residents are sounding the alarm that the kids are not driving safely. The thing with these e-bikes is they can be easily modified to go way faster than you think. A bike that's supposed to have a governor that stops at 20 miles an hour can be modified to go up to 50 miles an hour. Kids aren't wearing helmets. They're riding what are practically motorcycles with zero training or zero licensing. And the thing I'm going to constantly remind you is the state of California encouraged this. The state of California, through the California Air Resources Board, actually put forth something which was a voucher program with cap and trade money to incentivize more purchases of e-bikes in an incredibly misguided attempt to get cars off the road. What happened was a whole bunch of parents found a $2,000 free Christmas gift for their kids, and now streets are terrorized. You're starting to see a lot of neighborhoods figuring out new regulations, including age limits, including a school district in Newport Beach that wants to straight up ban them. And I really think we got to get to a point, because no kid can buy one of these themselves. If a child causes injury or harm on one of these e-bikes, the parents must be held responsible. Now, I find this story to be a little weird, but there was a big dust-up over the weekend between Chad Bianco, who's the Riverside County Sheriff and running for governor, and Bob Bonta, the California Attorney General, because Chad Bianco claims that there were some shenanigans in the 2025 special election for Prop 50. Now, I don't know if there really were. That was a landslide election in every single county. Apparently, there's a report from some citizens groups that say, hey, there's more ballots that were counted than were really counted, so they wanted to do a recount. Bonta says, hey, I don't know if that really makes any sense. You might just be sowing division and making people not believe in our elections. And I think a few things could be true here. One, Bonta loves shutting down investigations. He did it with Alex Villanueva in the investigation into Sheila Kuehl and the crooked nonprofit through Patty Giggins that was getting taxpayer money to run a sexual harassment hotline off the LA Metro. But also at the same time, is Bianco doing this because he's looking for attention and all those videos are going viral of people exposing fraud? Yeah, it's definitely possible. Now, gas prices have been on everybody's mind as they go up and up and up, as we are now into week 4 of this war in Iran. Boy, feels like deja vu, doesn't it? Well, one of the moves that's being done to calm oil prices is the federal government announced restarting oil drilling off the coast of Santa Barbara. And this has people in that region a little nervous because, well, it's those offshore oil wells in Santa Barbara where you had some really awful spills, including just 10 years ago at Refugio. And there's a lot of people that just don't want to see that again, and I don't blame them. And I've been seeing this story everywhere. You know, it's tragic anytime that somebody dies in police custody, but Inglewood is dealing with a situation where somebody was pulled over for a traffic stop. Something happened to the point where this man was detained, put in the back of a police car, and by the time they got him back to the station, they realized he wasn't breathing. The parents and the family are freaking out. They want to know what happened. And what makes this so different from other police departments is Inglewood PD still doesn't have body cams. Now, I don't know why that is in 2026, but you know, we should want to find out exactly what happened here. It could be nothing nefarious. It could have just been a medical emergency. I don't know, but the family is going to ask nothing but questions. Hopefully this is a point where we realize, and with all the money that Inglewood is bringing in, they should be able to afford body cams for their police officers. Just everything needs to be as transparent as possible. And that's what we're looking for. And this story's interesting. In Rancho Cucamonga, there is a little bit of a feud going on with a brewery that happens to be very close to a neighborhood and the neighbors who don't like it. Now, in the neighborhood's defense, they say since the brewery moved in, there's been a lot of drunk people wandering around their neighborhoods, and drunk people who drink too much tend to do things that might be irritating, like, I don't know, vomiting or going number one on somebody's lawn. That's not good. On the other hand, the brewery claims that their patrons are being harassed by the neighbors to the point where the neighbors are keying the cars of people attending the brewery. People are getting yelled at. It's one of these situations where there are no heroes, there are no villains. Everyone's just kind of being an a-hole to each other. But that's the little battle that's going on right now in Rancho Cucamonga. Apparently, this brewery has another location where it doesn't have these issues, but because this one is so close to a neighborhood, the locals don't like it. Now, in the Bay Area, we're starting to see some proof points when it comes to technology and law enforcement. And thanks to changes in the laws voted by the voters in 2024, the police in San Francisco were able to start using flock cameras and real-time information centers and police drones. And there really is now some pretty damning evidence that over 1,000 arrests made thanks to drone technology in just the last couple of years. And the fact that you can respond so quickly, you can respond way faster than a black and white. It's also aerial, so it doesn't have to abide by traffic laws or red lights or having to get people to pull over, especially in a very dense, busy city like San Francisco. I think this is great. And honestly, I think all the police departments need to move in this direction. There are a few reasons where you still need a helicopter, swiftwater rescue being one. But for the most part, I think we could save a whole lot of money in our police departments by investing in drones. And we don't really need the expensive helicopters anymore. As much as I like them, believe you me, they can track a car way better. In fact, San Francisco PD isn't even doing high-speed chases anymore. They have the ability to, but the drones have been so much more efficient. And I know that's a hard thing to swallow in Los Angeles, where we take pride in our high-speed chases, but I've just had enough of them. I think there are ways to shut those things down, and maybe drones will be a way to do that. Now, some people are worried about surveillance states, and some people are worried about the fact that everyone's on camera all the time. And to that I say, you have a listening device in your phone, right? And it's constantly listening to everything you say, or you're voluntarily posting all of your information and your location on social media. Privacy's gone. Now, speaking of technology, there were some protesters in the Bay Area over the weekend who want all of the big AI companies to pause their development of this technology because they call AI a danger to the human race. Now, I don't know if we need to go as far as Terminator here, but where you can go is that this emerging technology is going to be so disruptive to our lives in very good ways, but also very bad ways. We are looking at 30 to 40% of all jobs going away in the next 10 years. And that kind of disruption, how do you prepare for that? What do you do for that? It has a lot of people freaking out. It's like, to what jobs will be the jobs that still exist? So never been a better time to work in HVAC repair or plumbing, but there are so many categories of jobs that are just going to go away completely, especially any task that is repetitive. So if you find yourself in a job where you're doing the same thing every single day, maybe on a computer, you could be replaced. Just start planning for a backup plan, because we can't all make a living by taking pictures of our feet on OnlyFans. Now, speaking of AI, NVIDIA wrapped up their big conference where they're showing just how incredible this technology can be, all the things that AI can do when it comes to robotics, and all the jobs that it can replace. So yeah, people are starting to freak out. And here's one job that is going to AI. In Antioch, they're having a shortage of dispatchers for 911 calls and non-emergency calls to the police station. So since they're having that shortage, they've decided to incorporate AI chatbots into the non-emergency line. Apparently it has keywords, so even if you call the non-emergency line and if it sounds like you're in an emergency, it'll transfer you to a human. But I don't know about you. If you've ever had to deal with a phone tree in your life, you'll know that this technology is not great yet. Someday it might be. I'll tell you, I have, I play Duolingo a lot because I want to learn more Spanish and go back to Spain. And they have like all of these things now where you're chatting with an AI chatbot to learn Spanish. It's not great, but it is getting better all the time. But usually when you call, let's say, American Airlines, because you need to add your advantage number to a reservation because you booked it on Alaska, and if you book it on Alaska, you can't change it on the website, something I have to deal with a lot. Well, just trying to get to a human can be very difficult. And I feel like the impulse of anyone that calls the Antioch Police Department looking for a report that they need taken, and you're hearing the phone tree, you're just going to scream into the phone as many times as you can, get human, speak to human, give me a human. And you know what? There are certain things that AI is just not going to be able to do. Like a quick thinking 911 dispatcher in the East Bay that got a call from a man who said his wife just fell into labor. They're in their bathroom, and it looks like this baby's coming now. So the dispatcher sent out the ambulance, of course, but then she walked the father-to-be on exactly what he needs to do to safely deliver this baby in case the ambulance doesn't get there in time. And it happened. They successfully delivered the baby, and there was a little reunion where mommy and daddy and baby went to go meet the 911 dispatcher who helped bring him into life. And that's a pretty cool story. That is great. And for all of the awful things that 911 dispatchers have to hear on a daily basis, it is such a stressful job. It's also a job that you're wondering why there's still many staffing shortages, because the standards are so high to get into that field. The training can take about a year. So it's a really stressful job. So anytime there's a story like that where you really did something that you can, be proud of and that really led to, a life-changing moment for the better, that's just great. 911 operators, it's a really, really, really hard job. And Alameda County, it looks like the conversation is moving forward with this potential $30 an hour minimum wage on the ballot. Would that pass? Anything's possible at this point. Although there's going to be so many things on your ballot, there might just be ballot proposition fatigue. We've talked about the pros and cons of this, and I understand the cost of living is really, really, really high. But $30 an hour is still not enough to help you buy a house. It might help you a little, but it might also mean that now you're paying more taxes and you're qualifying less for social programs. And yeah, I'm with you on the argument. Well, if your employer pays you so little that you're on Medi-Cal and you're on food stamps, aren't we just subsidizing the employer? And yes, I want to have that conversation. I've always found it interesting that you work for a company like Walmart, one of the biggest employers in the world, and they pay most of their employees very, very little, to the point where a lot of their employees qualify for food stamps. Those food stamps they can use at Walmart. I don't like any of that. That's like a three-way subsidy. So yes, there's definitely thoughts there. And I will say this about the $30 an hour minimum wage. I was recently in Europe, in Dublin, Ireland. Had a great time. And one of the things that I remember about Dublin, whenever we were going to the different pubs and listening to the trad and getting a Guinness, is, boy, the seats moved quickly. You were able to find a seat at almost any bar, even when it was crowded, because the tables turned quickly. You know what happened here? In Europe, or at least specifically in Ireland, bartenders are paid a pretty decent living wage. And tipping is not a thing because they're paid a pretty decent wage. So everyone gets their pints of Guinness and then they Apple Pay and then they go. And nobody's sitting there running a long bar tab, and you can just move from bar to bar and have a great time. So, if there's a trade-off here, because once again, we have to subsidize the service industry who's not making enough to live on by tips. Would it be easier if it was just a flat rate? Maybe it would be. All I'm saying is that it was really cool to have to go bar to bar to bar. Now, I will say, I do like when you do get exceptional service that you can tip well. And at restaurants, you can still tip, but it was something to think about. And, it's a tough conversation to have because as we're getting to a point where more and more jobs are going away, isn't a $30 an hour minimum wage only going to accelerate that? Probably. In San Jose, because so few people are having kids and the people that do have kids are probably able to afford to put them in private school, more and more schools, especially elementary schools, are going to close because, of course, they are. And it was real hot up and down the state, but that didn't stop hundreds of fans of going to Sonoma County and going to taste Pliny the Younger, the newer version of Pliny the Elder. So Russian River Brewing is famous up there, and people go crazy for Pliny the Elder and Pliny the Younger, and it's a pretty darn decent IPA. But standing out in the sun for hours and hours and hours for a beer, not my ideal Saturday, but good for you. Now in Sacramento, California has a department that's supposed to investigate why gas prices are so high. It's one of the things that Gavin got passed in a special session when he said the oil companies were out to screw you. And yeah, there's some gas stations that are charging $7, $8. And we have a whole department of bureaucrats to investigate that, which should tell you everything that's wrong with the state because we created a brand new bureaucracy. And what does it do? Nobody knows. I mean, they did put out recommendations that then Gavin put forth in another special session. Remember the whole, we're going to prevent price spikes by making refiners have extra supply on hand at all times, even though they didn't have the storage facility for it. And so they said, we're going to have to move out. And then two of them moved out. Yeah, Gavin's bureaucracy did that one. One of the strikes in Strikeapalooza has ended. Twin Rivers is set to join the classroom Monday. It looks like, once again, the teachers got what they wanted, and now they say they can retain teachers because they're not going to go somewhere else. But now there's going to be another district that says, hey, look what they're paying Twin Rivers. Let's go on strike. And the lawsuit is moving forward. UC Davis women's equestrian team has a Title IX lawyer now saying that this university, by getting rid of the women's Division I team, is discriminating in a way that you're not allowed to because of Title IX. And the school knew about it because the same report that they cited that said they have to close this team said that they're going to get sued to high heaven if they try to. So keep on going, UC Davis women's equestrian team. Fun fact, did you know that in the Olympics, there is no men's horse jumping and women's horse jumping? It is the only gender neutral sport. And here's an awful story. San Diego is suing the operators of a group home because this place, which is being advertised as having rooms to rent for $900, is like a super slum in one building where people are putting up tents in the backyard and they're living in stairwells, and there's a whole bunch of people living in horrific, decrepit conditions. And apparently there's been complaints about this property for 10 years, which makes you wonder why it's so hard to shut something like that down. And I do love this. There's a project called the Buy Nothing Project. And it is a website, kind of like the old free section on Craigslist, where if you get something you want to get rid of, tell someone about it. Put it on your lawn. You want to get something for free that someone probably is going to give away? Look it up. Maybe they have a dresser they're not using. And I do love that. And as we all get to a point where AI takes all of our jobs, the free barter economy is only going to rise. There's a lot more. Check it all out. Today's California Report at randywangradio.substack.com. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. So here's the deal. On Friday, we were preempted for basketball, but that didn't stop me. I made an exclusive podcast version of that day's California Report. Check it out by searching for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. It is the News Blitz with Randy Wang on Talk Radio 790 KABC. Make sure you subscribe to the Substack at randywangradio.substack.com. And if you want to check out the podcast exclusive version of Friday's show, check it out by searching for the KABC News Blitz wherever you get your podcasts. Our next guest is running for Glendale City Council. He previously ran for Congress. You can check out his website, votedralex.com. Doctor is spelled out, and if you cannot spell that, I don't know if you're voting. Dr. Alex Balekian, welcome back to the News Blitz.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Dr. Alex, why don't you go ahead and reintroduce yourself to the audience, to anyone that doesn't know you, and tell us who you are and why you want to run for office.
Of course. Thank you. My name is Alex Balekian. My patients call me Dr. Alex. And I am running for Glendale City Council for three reasons: to punish reckless drivers that are endangering us, to lower the electricity rates that are bankrupting us, and to protect the single-family neighborhoods from these dense housing developments that are popping up everywhere along our city. Our current city council is more interested in auditioning for higher office rather than listening to our demands. So we are getting this grassroots effort to kick them all out, all of the incumbents, and replace them with people who actually represent the neighborhoods.
Well, let's start with one of the first issues there. You mentioned it, the electricity rates. How did the electricity rates in Glendale go up 75% in just the last couple of years?
Similar to most of California, we were promised this renewable energy dream without the plan actually being fleshed out. So fighting climate change sounds really good on paper, but not if it's raising our electricity rates. So we were sold this clean energy dream, but it turns out it's just we're not producing as much energy as we need, and we are having to pay for it ourselves. It used to be that Glendale would provide abundant energy not only for its citizens, but also to neighboring cities, so that we would sell it for profits. But with the new redo of our power plants, the majority on the city council has decided that fighting climate change on the other side of the world is more important than delivering efficient, reliable, cheap energy here. And as a result, we're all suffering.
Well, and we're also getting to a point where, we're becoming ever more reliant on electricity everywhere, but especially in Glendale, to the point where they replaced all of their gas buses and city vehicles that were hybrid with all electric. And so now they're on the grid as well all the time.
They did. We bought a $2 million electric dump truck because the one diesel dump truck that Glendale City used was apparently ruining sea levels everywhere. So they're spending a lot of money to buy new cars that are zero emissions, even though the state has not mandated us to do that. And so not only are people's electricity rates going higher, but now you have all these electric city vehicles that are having to be plugged in. And guess who's having to pay the electricity bills for those? We are.
Now, if you get on the city council, what can you do to change that course, to lower people's electric bills?
So when we get on the city council, and it's not just me, there are 3 seats up for grabs. So there are people like-minded candidates like Beth Brooks and Patrick Murphy that I encourage people to look into. But as soon as we get on, so our new power plant that is scheduled to go online July of this year, California allows cities a certain amount of waste production. So for example, your city gives you a single garbage can that you're allowed to fill every week. So California State gives Glendale a certain emissions cap. And so we were given a 14% emissions cap on 5 gas engines. That's for our redo of our power plant. Well, the 5 gas engines were minimized to 3 gas engines, but that 14% cap was still applied, even though we can work 3 gas engines essentially at 24%. So as soon as we get in, we can apply to the state to ramp up electricity production with our brand new engines so that we can produce that excess electricity, sell it to the neighboring cities, and then buy down the rates for the rest of us here within city limits.
We're speaking with Dr. Alex Balekian. He is running for Glendale City Council. Now, Glendale is a beautiful city, and there's a lot of fun stuff to do there. But I'm sure one thing that everybody listening would agree with is once you get into Glendale, driving can be kind of a pain, and parking can be even tougher. Is that a fair assessment of the city of Glendale?
That is very correct. A lot of people complain and they say there's a conspiracy that they're trying to turn Glendale into a 15-minute city. That's impossible because you can't get anywhere from anywhere in Glendale within 15 minutes. I live not too far from the 134 entrance, and one particularly bad day, the 2 miles took me about 22 minutes to traverse. How are the current city council members worsening the situation? So you mentioned parking. They are they're looking at selling off city parking lots to the highest bidder so they can turn those into high-rise apartment buildings, and of course with no minimum parking requirements. So not only are they selling off that area that we have parking, but they're also not replacing it space for space. The current streets, the large arteries, Glen Oaks Avenue, Central, Broadway, they are going to remove one lane of traffic in each direction to put a dedicated bus lane. If you've ever been to the Americana and the Glendale Galleria, that corner on Central and Broadway in Glendale is an absolute zoo, during holiday season. If you can imagine having one lane removed from each side at that intersection strictly for a bus, I mean, it's crazy what they're doing to the city.
And what could a fresh, newly installed common sense city council do to change that trend?
What we do is we prioritize city over ourselves. So the people in the city, they don't want reckless fast drivers. They don't want increased congestion. They don't want dense housing. So what we do is we actually listen to the people and we advocate for local control rather than just lying down and taking it when Sacramento tries to impose their one-size-fits-all edict, or you have very ambitious city council members who are simply using Glendale City Council as a stepping stone for higher office rather than serving their friends and neighbors across the city.
We're speaking with Dr. Alex Balekian. You can go to his website, votedralex.com. That's spelled DOCTOR. Now, one of the issues that you are really passionate about is the fact that there's a lot of awful, reckless drivers in Glendale right now and not a whole lot of punishment for them.
Correct. I mean, there's an Instagram account called Only in Glendale, which, to my shock and surprise, manages to find an overturned car at a city intersection, a different one every single day to post. So our reckless driving problem here is legendary, very well known across other cities. The solution that has been handed down from Sacramento is putting speed cameras everywhere. Now, speed cameras, fine, I guess they're going to go ahead and send you a ticket in the mail a few days later. But a visible police presence, motorcycle cops giving not just speeding tickets, but reckless driving tickets that are $1,000 fines, the loud exhaust laws that are already on the books that are not being enforced. We have a very wonderful police department that is not being supported by the current council members, again, because they want to audition for higher office, and it's much more fashionable to say, defund the police rather than getting behind them. So one thing we should do is post more motorcycle cops, give them much more freedom to write reckless driving tickets, and let them know that the city attorney is going to defend them. And what I tell people is motorcycle cops, a visible police presence, will deter other crimes, not just speeding, but it will deter property crimes. It will deter violent crimes. Speed cameras will not deter any of those other crimes.
Well, and from what we've seen is we really haven't seen that much, results when it comes to the enforcement with speed cameras. So you're saying you get a common sense city council in there and they will let the Glendale PD do what they're paid to do.
Exactly. You encourage them to uphold the law. You don't need more laws to write. There are plenty of laws there, but you just want to tell them that we will have your back when you write these tickets. And also, separate from that, I know I grew up in Glendale. I graduated from Glendale schools. Every year we had the remains of a mangled car that was put on the grass island on Glen Oaks to remind everybody, not just the high school students who are getting their driver's permits, but to remind everybody else that this is what happens when you drive recklessly. So simple things like that, bringing those back, I think that education would also go a long way in deterring reckless driving.
Or, you know what you got to do is I just followed this Only in Glendale account that you mentioned, and you got to get a digital billboard that just shows these pictures over and over and over again while you're stuck on the 134.
Yeah, it's amazing the level of dysfunction. But again, if you don't have a visible police presence that is cracking down on them, people aren't going to learn. So enforcement and education are going to be key.
Now, one of the things that a lot of people are thinking about when it comes to big city governments, but it's also true for medium and smaller city governments, is rooting out corruption, getting rid of the waste, fraud, and abuse. What do we see in Glendale when it comes to that kind of stuff?
Well, in Glendale, I'll start with the basics. In our city charter, it says that every contract worth more than $1 million needs to be audited by the audit committee. Out of the, I think, almost $100 million plus contracts, only 3 of them have been audited. So it's just one of those things where the laws are on the books. We simply have to enforce them. We simply have to hold ourselves to account. And also there's a lot of lack of transparency where you have backdoor negotiations being done with donors, when those negotiations should actually be very transparent calls for funding for contracts, et cetera. So there's very low-hanging fruit in this relatively, I'm not going to say corrupt, but this prone to corruption city with the current council that we have, who just don't even enforce the existing laws that are on the books.
Dr. Alex, I'm going to give you 60 seconds. Make your pitch to the voters. Why should people in Glendale send you to city council?
Thank you, Randy. Again, I am Dr. Alex Balekian. My patients call me Dr. Alex, and I'm running for city council for 3 reasons: lower electricity rates, limit dense housing, and punish reckless drivers. You can go to our website, votedralex.com, where you can order a lawn sign. And remember, there are 3 seats up for grabs, not just 1. So it's not enough simply to elect me. I would highly encourage you to look at like-minded candidates such as Beth Brooks and Patrick Murphy, so that we can have a 3-person majority on day 1 and hit the ground running.
There you go. The website is votedralex.com, votedralex.com. Dr. Alex Balekian, thanks so much for joining us, and good luck in June.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It was a big weekend at the box office. Project Hail Mary, the Ryan Gosling sci-fi adventure, which has incredibly good reviews. I've had people tell me I got to go see it. $80 million in its opening weekend. Those are numbers you don't really see these days. So good for Project Hail Mary. A lot of people excited about that one. Hoppers has moved down to second place. They still brought in $17 million. I'm going to butcher this name, but Durandar the Revenge came in at third with $10 million, which was only in 987 theaters, and I've never heard of it, so great. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, comes in fourth place at $9 million. Reminders of Him at fifth place. Scream 7, rolling in at sixth place. Goat is still making people go at $3.4 million. The Pout Pout Fish in ninth place. I guess it's not that well known, but I'm super curious about it because it's Nick Offerman as an animated fish. Undertone in 8th place, The Wuthering Heights at 10th place. And there is your top 10. When we come back, I'll give you a little Meal Prep Monday. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC. It is going to be another really hot summer week here. Isn't it still technically winter? I don't even think spring has started yet. But I did a marathon meal prepping session because I knew my wife was going to be really busy. And if we didn't get it all knocked out on Sunday, it was just going to be, you never want one of those situations where you're starving for lunch and you don't have anything prepared. So you just start grazing in the kitchen. We've all been there. Hell, sometimes I do have lunch prepared and I'm still grazing in the kitchen, but I'm trying to be really good. I mean, I'm going to Pilates 7 days a week. So I'm really starting to, get that mindset of being in good shape. And that means making good decisions when it comes to meal prep. I made 3 salads and I think they're all awesome. One of them was a Thai crunch shrimp salad, where I took that Trader Joe's, I'm going to screw up this name, Cruciferous Crunch collection. Look at that for alliteration. I took that and some onions and bell peppers and cilantro, and I made a healthy Thai peanut style dressing with this PB peanut butter protein powder that my wife uses. And I put that with shrimp, and I seasoned the shrimp with like chili, garlic, and sriracha and soy sauce. So there's one salad, and I'm very excited about that because, the crunchy vegetables like that, which that has like broccoli, slaw, and coleslaw, and Brussels sprouts, those all just soak up that dressing over days. So that one you can just leave dressed. Then I also made a smoked salmon barbecue salad. So I smoked 2 pieces of salmon on my Traeger. I go at like 180 degrees until they get to about 140. And then you just shred it and toss it in with black beans, corn, tomato, onion, cilantro, put that over greens, little ranch dressing, and then your barbecue sauce of choice. We have some Salt Lick here. That's very good. We also have some Rudy's, which I got from when we had Rudy's in New Mexico once, and then we got a bottle to take home and we smuggled it in a wineskin. Oh, I need Rudy's. It's real good. And then I made a curried chicken salad. So I took chicken breasts and chicken thighs, put them in the pressure cooker because that's the fastest way to get shredded chicken. And then I added celery, onions, apples, and then a dressing that consisted of part mayo, part Greek yogurt, part lime juice, and just a ridiculous amount of curry powder. And I know some people like to put raisins in that. I'm not a raisin person. I was thinking about if I wanted to add some more fruit besides the apples, I could add blueberries, but the apples on its own were great. So those were my meal prep salads this week. A curried chicken salad, a barbecue smoked shrimp salad, and a Thai crunch shrimp salad. And they all turned out great. And I'm getting excited about lunch every single day. Thank you all so much for being a part of this show and tuning in. If you want to send me a message, you can email me at randywangradio@gmail.com. Thanks for subscribing to the Substack. We made it to 150 subscribers on there. I love doing this thing every day, and it's great show prep. It's the News Blitz with Randy Wang on KABC.